intended to maximize your impact with your managers and your sales classes while eliminating any previous issues you may have experienced with internet speeds or signal while you're on site. Never happens, right? Also, the lack of data you may find in a brand new CRM as you're trying to demonstrate it. And finally, most importantly, should we experience a full system outage, you'd still be able to perform your training without a direct connection to Vin.
Never
Okay?
happens. Never happens.
That wouldn't happen either. Boom, boom, find some way. Okay. Before we do that, though, real quick show of hands. Who here is familiar with the work of Paul Webb and VAK? Just Joe, really? You guys are missing out. So let me tell you a little bit about VAK. Paul Webb is an established international linguistics expert turned car guy. And what he brings to the car business with him is something called VAK. Now the concept of VAK is that everyone in this room predominantly speaks in one of three languages: visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Right? And the same is true for your management teams as well as your sales teams when we go on site in the dealership. So it's important to understand the differences between these three. All right, so the first audience is your auditory audience, and these are probably your easiest people to sit down in a classroom environment. Your auditory person, you can literally sit down in a chair, face at a blank wall, and for the next hour discuss our CRM with that person. And the auditory person will take notes, ask questions, interact with you, and at the end of that hour, they'll come away from that experience with better working knowledge of the CRM. Now, our second audience is a little bit tougher, and that's our visual communicators. Visual communicators need to see things in order for them to register for them. So these are the folks that are the reason why we bring our projector with us everywhere we go, so that we can flash an image of our CRM against that blank wall and explain to them what we're talking about. Here's your internet funnel. Here's your recent messages. Here are your road to the sale folks, okay? So that makes it a little more real for them. Our toughest audience, however, is our kinesthetic audience. And these folks communicate in the language of action, animation, movement, right? It's very difficult for them to sit through a classroom training environment. If I spot them early enough, these will be the people that I'll choose to drive for me while I'm presenting. But they're also the folks you want to make sure you circle back to for one-on-ones after the classroom training, okay? But for the sake of the training in the classroom environment, what I need to make sure happens for the sake of our kinesthetic learners is I need to stay in motion. And if you didn't notice, Hawthorne did a great job of that earlier today. He was moving around the room, he was talking, he was animated. That helps keep the attention of our kinesthetic audience. What I also need to make sure happens in our presentation is that I can demonstrate interaction with the system so they can begin to connect with that through the action that I'm demonstrating. Okay? Now the reason I bring this up is because for those of you who worked for us long enough, you used to be able to access for your manager's presentation a live store, Crosley Ford, their CRM, right? So we used to be able to put them up on the wall, a fully functioning, very busy store, and then speak to all the activity within their CRM. Right? We could show our internet lead funnel. They had a fairly decent BDC working on that, so we could discuss the percentages of how they were performing with their leads and how we might improve on that. Right? We could look at a lot of inbound and outbound emails, telephone calls, and texts, and show where they were demonstrating activity. We even drill down on those bits. We could demonstrate the road to the sale and show how many they had in the store versus how many they closed and how many got to meet a manager. As well as a whole plethora of usually, if we started early enough in the day, of scheduled appointments. Okay? So we had a lot going on that we were able to talk about when we had Crosley available to us. Now, since they withdrew their patent for us to access their system for the sake of demos, we've been forced to use one of two other options. The first option being, use your new customer's new CRM to demonstrate your manager training. And the problem with that is, there's not a whole lot there to look at, right? So you've got a couple of test customers in there that either you put in or implementation put in. Beyond that, there's just nothing going on in that new CRM. So what we're forced to do in a situation like that is channel our very best Bob Ross and start painting pictures, okay? Try to imagine a happy little showroom visit over here. Over here, a fluffy little showroom appointment schedule, okay? So really, at that point, we're just talking to 1/3 of our audience, and that's our auditory audience. Our visual people and our kinesthetic people are already starting to tune us out. Our second option would be to use one of our trainer sites. Okay, so I'm sure we've all been in there before. And I like to refer to those trainer sites, at least from a presentation standpoint, as a dealership wasteland. You've got a bunch of internet leads that haven't been touched. You may or may not have phone calls or emails or texts to discuss for that day. There may or may not have been someone in the showroom that we could talk about or that may have converted. And we're lucky, there may be a few appointments, but they're all going to go unconfirmed. So again, we're trying to paint pictures. What we're doing is we're asking our audience to use their imagination. And as I think as we've all come to expect from our dealerships teams, imagination is not one of their strong suits, at least not when it comes to software. Okay? So the tool that I built and I'm here to present to you for this first round is a full working offline mock-up of a CRM. And it looks like this. Now, within this dealership mock-up, you may or may not recognize some of the sales representatives as well as some of our customers. I had to painstakingly go through there and make sure that we weren't inadvertently using any dealership's existing material. So, we've got a lot of salespeople here in the room, we've got a lot of customers here in the room, but what we also have is the ability to discuss each one of these panels in detail and provide those concise wow moments that are going to win the day with our managers during class. So just to take you for a quick tour around it, if I hover over my internet funnel, we'll see that you are actually able to see percentage conversions based on the numbers that are up there. If I look over to my right, I can see where we've got sold units already happening for the day. We've got inbound and outbound emails, phone calls, and texts that we can speak to. We can also speak to a working road to sale that's already been presented, as well as our showroom activity. And this allows you to keep all three of your segments of your audience engaged throughout the presentation and get those wow moments that we're looking for. So Randy, in our opening meeting, we talked about the fact that you expect 100% manager TOs on all showroom visits to the store. As we can see here from this panel, we had 25 visits to the store, but only 17 got to be the manager. So that means we've got approximately 8 lot drops. Now, based on the national current market spend for every walk-in person that we see at the store, we're talking about $450 per walk-in, right? So what's 8 times $450? Now, don't worry, I can help you out. That's $3,600 that my sales team has cost me on account of those 8 lot drops. So what I can do with that information now is I can drill down on those links, I can identify my offenders, and we can have some coachable moments with those folks to keep them from being such weak sucks when it comes to bringing them inside the store. Okay? What I can also do with this, so Aaron, as you agreed in our opening meeting this morning, customers are 3 times more likely to show up at the store if their appointment is called and confirmed by a manager. Here's where we can look to see where we've got our appointments coming in for the day, as well as how many have been confirmed versus those that have not. Now, in the event that they've not, you can see that we have the ability to click into it, read the notes, make the phone call, and then click on confirm. And what you'll notice here is that this is an interactive mock-up. So my confirmed appointment is now showing confirmed, and I can roll on with my presentation. Okay? A few more bits before we roll out and on to our next presentation. How you'll know where there's activity to be discussed is from your drop-downs, look for the blue. If it highlights, that means there's something there to talk about. So we look at our showroom activity. I've tried to build this with as many speaking points within it as humanly possible to keep this thing working for you, but to demonstrate all the options that it's got available to us. So if you look, we can see that as you hover over your customers, you do get their driver's license. If I click on their end visit and come down, I can choose on yes, they bought, or no, they didn't. And based on that, I even have drop-downs where you can share with your salespeople, with your managers, what options they'll have available to choose from as we go. All right, let me take a look at our desk log real quick and show you what that looks like. So once again, hoverable driver's license is over here. A lot of information to speak to, and where the system gives you the finger, you can click in. And over here on our dashboard, you can see that I've even got it working so that as you hover over things, they turn blue and tell you that you can interact with them. So the bottom line with this, and the advantage that this brings to us is, while we're using Chrome to view this entire CRM, we are currently offline. We don't need an internet connection to use this. This is a set of files that you will save to your computer, that will allow you to go the entire course of a manager sales class without ever having to worry about connectivity. Okay? Also, because it's responsive, you're retaining the attention of all three of your key audiences. All right? So, what I'd like to do with this is, over the next coming weeks, schedule some webinars starting in the evening where I can walk you through a full boat class and show you what does work and what doesn't work. But once you've had a little bit of practice with this, you'll be able to step into a store and consistently provide the strongest presentation possible. So in closing, for both our managers and our sales classes, in particular our manager classes that happen on the first day of any new install, this is going to make or break whether it's going to set the tone basically for the rest of the week. So if we can come out swinging hard on this one and get the attention of every one of our segments in our audience and send them out of that classroom pumped up and ready for what's next, then this is a big win. So that's why we've come up with it, and we'll be discussing more about this in the coming week or two. That's it.
One question, it doesn't matter the order I go in, it'll actually show the data I've updated, like if I'm going to...
To a degree. So the question was, does he have to follow a certain order? The answer is, to a degree, yes you do. There were over 29 web pages that were built in order to accommodate this class, but it does follow roughly the same cadence as your flow, as it exists today. So you'll want to try to stay within the confines of that flow to the best of your ability. Once you've confirmed an appointment, if you were to come away from the screen and come back to it, it would still show confirmed. But there are other areas of this program where if you jumped into desk log before you went into showroom activity, you might see a different result when you get there. So yes, you'll want to be cognizant of that cadence. Good question. Okay, so our next 10-minute spiel is going to be on AI. And we didn't do a lot of prep work on this one, but I can tell you, as we all continue to learn more about AI, I have to admit I am becoming very impressed with it. I think where it was initially fairly daunting to all of us was that when it was released, there was a lot to it. And the people that were presenting it to us tended to be more tech-minded than they were car-minded or retail-minded. So we all tried to wrestle with terms like machine learning and algorithms. And frankly, every time I thought that I had it figured out, I'd attend another class where I realized I didn't know a thing about it. So what we decided to do at the behest of our performance management team is Dean and I worked together to create a presentation for our performance managers that would speak to where to go in AI to find deals. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's all our dealerships care about. They don't care how it works. They don't care why it works. They just want to know, for the money they're spending, how do they get the return out of this thing? And now that it's been out there for a little while and dealerships have been using it, we're starting to see results of AI. That's becoming a reality. So let me get this presentation open for us. Now, a lot of what you're going to see in this one, we've already done. It's already been released in the video. Now, we've since amended that video to catch up as the software continues to evolve. So some of the stuff you may not have seen yet. And certainly if you haven't watched the video at all, you're in great shape because this is all going to sound new to you. So, all right, AI and what does it mean to your dealership? How do we show the value? The first thing we'll talk about is buying signals. And there's a few different ways to go after those buying signals. So the buying signals are obviously what is your customer doing online based on the intel we're receiving from KBB and Auto Trader and their own website. And best, how do we customize the customer's experience based on what we know so far about what they've been up to? Okay, so you become a little bit of a Jedi warrior with this, and when they show up at the door, we're already having to bag on how we're going to close them because we've seen where they've been and where their interests lie. So the next step in this would be then to scour our buying signals and look for opportunities. Now these opportunities, at least the buying signals part, exist on the desk log as well as on the AI dashboard. Where we're going to start today is on the desk log. Okay? So just to pick one out of the crowd here, we find one on the desk log. His name is, I know it's tough time today, Greg O'Connor. And Greg O'Connor was marked lost on 7/29, but was looking, according to buying signals, as late as August of 02. Or 02 August, all right. And we can see from his history exactly what he's been looking at. It looks like he's been looking at Infinities. Now, he's inquired about a new truck, but obviously his interests are varied because we've got that intel and we can see it working for us. We can see that he reached out to the store and submitted a lead on a vehicle, and that he asked for a price on that vehicle, and the agent who received that reluctantly agreed to give him a price. At first they resisted and said, well, we're really not supposed to do that, but let me get back to you with the price. And then, in way of getting back to the customer, instead of saying, here's what the price is on the car you picked out, the truck you picked out, his response instead was, just want to let you know, that car was sold. If there's anything else I can do for you, let me know. And then that agent marked that lead as lost. Okay? But because we have buying signals, it is now possible for management to examine all their opportunities regardless of the personal opinions of their own sales force. So a manager can hop right back into this thing, re-engage that customer, perhaps with a stronger salesperson, and help us get to the bottom of what this guy's trying to accomplish. Now, another way we can use this, obviously, is if they're looking at values for their trade, we'll know it before we meet them. So we'll know that's on the table, even if they try and withhold that information from us. And then we can go after that when it's seeming to us that they're trying to remain out of reach. So in this case, this customer submitted a lead, an e-Pricer lead on a new Subaru. Right? Pricing leads are always our toughest because they want to stay anonymous and they want your best price, and we have no idea in the world where they are or whether we'll actually earn their business. But we also see from the buying signals that this customer has also done a trade appraisal on a pre-owned Audi Q7. Okay? Now again, she's just asking for an e-price on one of our new vehicles. She hasn't mentioned hers at all, but we know from looking at this that she's got an appraisal in hand. And we also, a Volvo XC70 is what she's got in trade. So we can also see, based on what she was looking up her trade value is, we can see how her vehicle was equipped and what the market's telling her she should expect to get for that in an offer. So, this person has also been marked, this person received one outbound phone call attempt where they left a message, and that was days ago, at least from when I put this together, and no contact has been made since. So as a manager, again, I can intervene at this point. I can reach out with a phone call or a text indicating that, hey, in addition to your interests, I just want to let you know, we are in dire need of quality pre-owned vehicles, especially like this vehicle and that vehicle, and see if we can't hook her based on that information. Okay? All right, so the Automotive Intelligence Dashboard is going to be the huge place to be, and this is where we're going to find our deal. So it wasn't too long ago, I was on a call with Guy Lance, and we were talking about follow training. And Guy pointedly asked me, if you were in a dealership right now, and you had to find one deal for the dealership right now, where would you go to do that? And I answered with some generic answer, but what I really wish I'd done is learn more about this first, because my answer to Guy would have been, I'm going to the AI dashboard and I'll find 3 deals there right now. And here they are. So, we hop into the dashboard, and again, this gives you a look at all of your customers based in groupings on their dispositions. And this is completely independent of our customers' own impressions of what they've got in front of them. So at the very top, you've got a new panel that's consolidating your buying signal. So as a manager, I'm not necessarily going to spend any more time on the desk log, but I am going to come here. And I'm going to look at these as they're broken down into 6 categories, and then I'm going to start drilling down. So we'll start with some easy ones. Let's go after some buying signals from orphan customers. Why are we getting a buying signal from an orphan customer? Let's see. So here's our orphan customers with buying signals. We pull up our very first customer, and his name is Charles. We're going to take a look. So we see that we have a buying signal for Charles, but Charles hasn't bought a car from this dealership since 2015. And there's been no interaction with him since then. So why in the world are we getting a buying signal right now? Well, we can see that he's recently been looking at a 19 Honda plug-in hybrid. We can also see that he's had services done with us recently. And because he was a service customer, he received a marketing promotion from the dealership, which he interacted with. And for interacting with one of our emails with one of our links in it, we now have access to anything he's been doing online for the previous 90 days. So what this is sharing with us, unbeknownst to him, is that he's been looking at a new vehicle and toying with that idea, and now we can preemptively go after this customer and say, you know, we're looking for a car just like yours for a customer that's in the market right now. By the way, have you heard about our new electronic lineup of vehicles and the great incentives that are available for them now? And you'll almost be able to hear his mind go over the phone because he just read his mind. All right, another great way to look at these, let's take a look at another area, lost leads. All right, a lot of times our salespeople are rather rash about declaring a customer lost if they don't pull the trigger on the first time they're in our store. So we can kind of check their work looking at it this way. So here's a list of all my lost customers, and I'm just going to pick this one out. This guy is showing that he's actively shopping, even despite the fact that we marked him lost some time ago. So what we can see from this one is that this guy was looking at, so first off, he bought a 14 Corvette for us, and he had recently reached out to the dealership regarding a 2020 Corvette. And the agent who dealt with him at that time indicated to him, we don't have it yet. So the guy disappeared, and he marked him lost.
Of course.
Now this guy is back online, and he's looking at trade values for his 14 Corvette. Now mind you, we marked